Right, we're actually back from Switzerland now, and as I stated last week, or at least predicted, I am absolutely exhausted. I felt bad enough after doing those back-to-back 4 days in the gym, but now I've been away for 3 days working, and I think each day I had at least, or at the most, about 5 hours sleep. So yeah, this week's probably going to be terrible, but I'll give it a go. So this week I decided to mix it up slightly, and instead of doing max effort singles, I'm going to be doing something a bit more volume based, and well, I say volume based, it's hardly anything more, but I'm going to be doing some doubles this week. So for squats, I'm going to go for a max effort double, and bench max effort double as well. I've never done these before, well I have, but I've not done like a max effort version of this. So my max effort single is 142.5 for my squats. So this week I'm going to hopefully go for something around 135 and maybe 140, I'm not sure, it depends on the energy on the day, which is probably going to be none. Yeah. Anyway, let's get started, because you don't really want to listen to me being all lethargic and knackered from the weekend, do you? I'll see you in the gym, and hopefully the commentary has more energy than I have right now. Enjoy! And here we are in the gym as always. Because of all the travel and just generally sitting down a lot and working really hard, this week I was really achy. So I spent pretty much the first 20 minutes or 25 minutes or so of my session stretching and basically trying to foam roll my back, because my back was super tight this day and just painful. So that was never a good start to the day. One thing I've been doing lately with my squats, which I'm trying to keep up with, is when I'm warming up a bit more with a couple of front squats. I'm mostly doing this just because it gets extra quad work in, and also it helps warm my back up pretty much. So yeah, one of the things I've always had like as an issue with my squat is upper back tightness, which I really need to work on, but front squats are kind of helping that, and it's helping me stop rounding over during a squat. So as I said today, I'm basically going to be working up to a heavy double instead of a heavy single. Yeah, so hopefully I can get around 135 or just above there anyway, so we'll see how that goes. Still working on the whole heel down thing. I reckon I'm going to change my stance soon. Well, I say change my stance, I'm just going to have a play around with my stance on my dynamic days and try and either bring it in closer or a little bit wider, because I think that's going to help a lot with keeping my heels down, and also maybe using slightly different muscles, because as you all know, and I've said many times before, that quads are kind of my weakness. So if I can kind of get my back and my hamstrings into my squat a bit more, hopefully I can move a little bit more weight than I usually can. Anyway, here we are at 120 kilos and moving on to 130. That moved fine. Heels are still slightly coming up off the floor, which is never great. So I really do need to work on that. Everything else seems to be kind of fine apart from, well, I'm still forward leaning. Where are we at now? 135. for having such like an exhausting weekend and no sleep and food properly, these are moving a lot better than I actually assumed they would, which is very surprising. Unsurprisingly, this is pretty much my max for the day now. I do end up going higher, but as you'll see later, it doesn't quite work out. So here we are at my max for the day, which is 137.5 kilos for a double, which surprisingly moves okay, but heavier than this, not so great. So watch this and enjoy. So yeah, there you go, 137.5 kilos. As I just stated though, I go on up to 3 full plates. Yeah, which I assumed may move okay on this day. Turns out I was pretty much exhausted by this point, which, yeah, you'll see in a second how terribly it goes. First one moves relatively well, second one, not so much. Yeah, the fatigue slightly got to me there, so you win some, you lose some. Afterwards though, I took the 137.5 and then dropped it to 80% for my volume work, as you can see here, which is 110 kilos for 3 sets of 5, I believe. Don't know why I did a pause there. At least my depth is staying like relatively low. I've never really had an issue with my depth, and the Olympic lifting shoes kind of work. Afterwards, I moved on to some deadlifts, mostly because, well, I'm trying to get more volume in, as I think I've stated before, and this is, yeah, 170 kilos, which I don't want to do much volume. I just want to practice the technique somewhat. So I am basically working up to a couple of sets of 170 kilos, and then moved on to my accessories, which was mostly leg work. So I did leg curls and leg extensions, not necessarily in that order, because you can see I'm doing extensions here, and then obviously curls, and call it a day. And it's back being Wednesday again, and I've started to speak slightly too early here, but who cares. So Wednesday, and it is max effort bench, and for some reason I decided to bench in a completely different part of the gym today. I remember why. It's because there was like 12 people on the normal bench, and I decided that I might as well just set up my own rack and stay out of the way of everyone. So here we are benching in some random rack in the gym. As stated earlier though, I'm going to be trying to work up to a max effort double. If my max effort single is around 117, 120 kilos, I'd be happy to get about 110, 112 kilos on this day. I'm already at 90 kilos here, which is kind of, oh, it's moving relatively well. At least my feet are kind of staying down these days. That's one thing I have been working on lately. I'm still having issues with the ass at really heavy weights though, so I think I'm going to also be trying to play around with my stance at some point in the near future with this, so I might widen my feet out or move them further away from the bench. Another thing is I've been trying to bench with a belt lately. Because I arch a fair bit, I decided to incorporate a belt into my presses just to help support my lower back, and well, can't do any harm really, can it? Even though it looks like I've got some kind of boner. Here we are now at, oh, this turns out to be my max for the day, and I'll also explain why in a minute, but 110 kilos for a double. As quite often lately, I couldn't find a spotter, so quite risky doing these on my own, but 110 kilos. which, looking at the video, seems to move relatively easily. I assure you though, on the day they felt terrible, which is probably just, the fatigue. Here's 112, which I was going to go for a double, but because of the lack of spotter, I pretty much just did a single for the day, as I didn't want to risk dying. Afterwards moved to the 80% as always, which is 90 kilos for 3 sets of 5, and then afterwards, instead of doing the usual floor press, I decided to mix in some slingshot work, which you'll see in a second. It kind of does the same thing, where obviously you're helping off the chest, but it's overloading your triceps in the lockout portion, so it's very similar to what floor press does, but using the full range of motion. I was doing volume on this though. I kept the weight at 90 kilos, but I was doing sets of 10 instead of the sets of 5, which I'd just previously been doing, just to get that extra volume in. Afterwards though, as always, I moved on to some accessories, which I decided to do the standard stuff as always, as I was doing incline bench with 32 kilo dumbbells. I was going to go up more, but as I stated far too many times now in this video, I was exhausted and felt like death, to be honest. But yeah, cable flies, and then I did some lateral raises for the shoulders, which, as always, trying to work on those boulder shoulders, which will help me my lockout. Look at the chalk on the floor. Some douche dropped a dumbbell on the liquid chalk and it exploded everywhere. Yeah, so thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully this hasn't been too terrible, because I have been dying this week, and I shall see you all next week. Like, comment, subscribe, and do whatever you want. See you soon.